Hello everyone, a very warm welcome back to the third day of our beautiful journey through the heart of Gujarat, exploring the iconic Gir Forest region by the Metre-gauge train. So today the date is 28th March 2025 and let me tell you how this exciting day began. Last night I arrived at Somnath from Diu by bus. For the night stay, I checked into the Somnath Aditi Grade Trust dormitory, a humble and neat accommodation for just 90 rupees. I have already shared the dormitory details and how I reached there in the third episode of my Gir trip series. So do check that out. And today early in the morning around 4:30 am I woke up, freshened up with a quick bath and got ready for the big day ahead. As time was limited and I wanted to conserve energy for the full day exploration, I decided to skip the Somnath temple visit this time, even though it is just next to the mighty Arabian Sea. But no worries, the journey ahead was worth every bit. Around 7 o'clock in the morning time, I packed my bags, headed to the reception, collected my deposit money of 90 rupees and stepped out of the Somnath Trust premises. Outside, I quickly hired a share auto to Veraval Junction station, which is roughly 10 to 11 kilometers away. I paid for the first 2 rows in the auto rickshaw where I could comfortably accommodate my luggage, and off we went. And as we started approaching Veraval Junction, a sense of nostalgia hit me. The station building itself radiates the glory of the Metre-gauge era. From outside itself, I could spot the classic Metre-gauge coaches through a narrow corridor, the very entry point of the station. So only through this narrow corridor you can enter into the platform number 1 of the station. And as you enter into the platform, the very first glimpse you see is the Metre-gauge stock, simply magical. Upon entering the station, I quickly rushed to the clock room, paid 15 rupees, placed my luggage safely there with about 2 hours already left for my train's departure, which would be at 9:40. The train for Amreli Para, that is the first service in the day for Amreli Para, which would depart at 9:40 in the morning time. Then as I already had 2 hours left for my train's departure, I took that opportunity to explore Veraval station. So at first I strolled along the platform number 1, which now serves Broadgate section. The electrification is completed on the BG side, Broadgate side I'm talking about, but the rhythmic EMD loco sounds filled the air, adding life to the morning. Then came the best part. I headed towards the Metre-gauge platforms, and upon arriving into Metre-gauge platforms, what a moment of bliss it was. There is an unexplainable peace, a divine charm when you stand beside Metre-gauge tracks. There is a kind of emotional connection that only true rail fans can relate to. But trust me, even non-rail fans find something special and joyful on Metre-gauge trains. It may be slow, no doubt about it. It may be slow, it is very slow, but it has its own soul. So finally I've gotten my luggage back from the clock room and I'm all set to board the Metre-gauge train. It's number 52929 and this is going to be a simple passenger train. It is a simple passenger train. Its fare is 35 rupees and my fare is charged from Veraval Junction to Amreli. And today on this journey we would be repeating the Gir Forest stretch once again between Talala Junction and Viswada Junction. But trust me, the views would never get old. And before boarding the train, I have also purchased some fresh pepla. 20 rupees I had spent for the peplas, 3 pieces of parotas. It is just like parota. So I had them right after settling into my seat, because on this countryside remote route you are not going to get anything to eat once the train starts rolling from Veraval Junction station. So best to be prepared. So here we go, our MG train has finally started moving from Veraval Junction station and I'm super excited for this journey. The stretch from Veraval Junction to Talala would be the first section we would be covering. It would be about 24 kilometers long, and it is going to be a thrilling ride, full of diesel smoke, the classic YDM4 chugging, and pure meter-gauge vibes along the way. Let the adventure begin. We are now running through the 24 kilometers stretch between Veraval and Talala Junction. The landscape here is pure rural countryside, open fields, village homes and calm surroundings. The real charm, the YDM4 chugging through the silence with diesel smoke trailing behind, absolute bliss for any rail fan. Our next major halt would be Talala Junction, 24 kilometers away. Let's enjoy this ride. Now we have arrived at Savni station, nestled deep in the countryside of Gujarat. The surroundings are peaceful and beautifully rural, open landscapes, green patches, and that raw, untouched charm. This is where Metre-gauge train truly shines. Slow paced, scenic, and soulful. Just sitting by the window and watching this rustic beauty roll by is an experience in itself. we reach at Talala Junction station, we come to a halt here. At the down trim we already see waiting for our train to cross it. The atmosphere here is simply mesmerizing. Surrounded by trees, it gives you those deep forest vibes that only a journey through Gir on Metre-gauge trains can offer you. The stillness, the chirping birds, and the distant chug of diesels, everything about Talala feels timeless and magical.
Amreli तरफ जवानी ट्रेन लाइन नंबर 1 बनाई गई है। पिछावर गाड़ी अमरेली तरफ जवानी ट्रेन लाइन नंबर 1 बनाई गई।
So finally we have arrived at Sasan Gir station, right at the edge of the famous Gir Forest. This marks the end of episode 4 of our journey. Though the stretch ahead from Talala Junction to Viswadar Junction will be a repeat, it is still going to be fun riding through those familiar forest tracks. But stay tuned because the real charm is yet to come in the next episode. Sasan Gir to Amreli section promises even more breathtaking visuals and soulful MG moments. And if you have enjoyed watching this video and felt the charm of this Metre-gauge journey through Gir, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this journey going. See you in the next episode from Sasan Gir to Amreli.